Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Slowey and I am the Operations Director here at Qdos. In today's video, I'm going to be speaking to you about what contractors can do 1 month out from IR35 reform. Now, as we know, the specifics of the change in the legislation will mean that contractors will no longer carry the responsibility to consider their own IR35 status. So it's likely at this point in time as a contractor, you're perhaps in limbo, having not heard from your client or your recruitment agency in respect of your status, or you're waiting because you have been told that a determination will be issued to you in due course, or it's possible that you may actually already have your determination. As far as what contractors can do over the coming weeks, if you fall into two of the first categories where you haven't yet had a determination or a communication, we're going to go through that in a little bit of detail. First and foremost, we would ultimately recommend that you engage in conversations with both your client and your recruitment agency and your supply chain. Establish what the time frame is within the particular client and agency organisations around when determinations have been issued. And equally, you're well placed to ask what that assessment process is actually going to be, as well as building up an appreciation of what that challenge process might be in the event of a determination. Now again, it's important for you to document the requests that you've made upon your client and your recruitment agency around what that process is going to be and what the relevant timeframes are. Now, hopefully it won't be long before you receive a form of communication that will set that out. But in the interim, it may be that you want to consider your own IR35 status in order to substantiate any impending discussions with your client around any particular determination that's going to be applied to your circumstances going forward. Contractors are well within their rights to independently have their status assessed and take that evidence and that information to their clients in support of any discussions. Now, given the change in the legislation, there's no guarantee that a client organisation would take that information on board, but it's a personal decision dependent upon the nature of the relationship that you have with your particular client in the supply chain. Now, in the event where you do receive a determination from your client, what you should be looking for is it to be delivered in a fashion which you could consider a status determination statement, which would contain both the determination itself of either inside or outside IR35, as well as the rationale behind what that determination actually is. In addition to that, you also have that right of challenge. So if there's something contained within the determination or what the determination has been based upon, you can challenge your client in that scenario. Now, there is no framework as such for what clients need to have as part of their challenge process. So as I said previously, it's important to know going into a determination process what a client's dispute process actually is going to be. Now, if we take it back a step, it's also possible, dependent upon the mechanism that your client has chosen to determine status, that you might actually be asked to participate in that process. So in the scenarios where you do, it's important to build up an understanding over what the mechanism is. So is there a third party provider? Get an appreciation and a view of the questions or the information that you're likely to be presented, and participate in that process with as much detail and, importantly, honesty around the reality of how you're delivering those services back to your client. If as part of any determination process that either you are considered inside IR35 and you do not want to challenge, or you do challenge an inside determination but that determination is upheld, what you'll need to gain an appreciation of is within that particular client and recruitment agency scenario, what does inside IR35 look like from an operating model or an engagement model? Now, it's possible that your recruitment agencies and your supply chain may have already provided you with information around what inside IR35 looks like for a particular client, whether that's working via an umbrella company, going with the agency on a PAYE basis, and also an indication as to what that's going to look like for you commercially. Now again, at that point, it's important to consider all of your options and understand all of the specific rights and ramifications that a change in engagement would mean for you in terms of moving away from using your limited company to provide those services to perhaps an umbrella company model where you are effectively an employee of the umbrella company or a temporary employee of the recruitment agency. Now, it's the recruitment agency's obligation to provide you what is known as a key information document, which would set out the basis upon which you are paid across those different options. So it should give you the absolute clarity that you need around understanding commercially what that might look like for you and on what basis. And it may be that as part of that process, your client is open to having discussions and negotiations around rates, or they may have a particular policy, whether it's no increase in rates or potentially some form of halfway house where the client may agree to an increase in rate for a portion of those employment costs. Thanks again for listening. As always, if you want to stay up to date to Qdos news and videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll also find a link in the box below to our IR35 guide for contractors, which may be of use to you as well.